You ever walk into a room and know you don't belong? That was me that night. My daughter called, said, "Dad, come meet my friends. It'll be good for you." I showed up early, tie a little too tight. Stood outside the restaurant for a minute, thinking maybe I should just turn around. But I didn't. She was there, table full of smiling faces. Young, sharp, all talking fast, English and Spanish mixed together. I smiled, sat down, tried not to look nervous. Dinner started out fine. But then I noticed it. Every time she leaned in, her words slipped into Spanish. She thought I couldn't keep up. "Don't worry, he's too dumb to notice," she said, laughing, right in front of me. Her friends laughed too. Some looked at me with that look. You know, the one that says, "Poor old guy." What they didn't know, I understood every word. I learned Spanish back when she was a kid. Stayed up late, studying her books. Just wanted to be part of her world. She never knew. Sitting there, hearing her call me clueless, it hurt. But I kept my face calm. Just nodded along, played my part. All through dinner, I listened. Took it in. Not just the words, what she was really saying. When dessert came, I looked at that candle in the middle of the table. Thought, how did we get here? When did I become someone she could laugh at? You ever watch your own kid and feel like you're looking at a stranger? That's how it was, sitting at that table. She slipped into Spanish with her friends. Easy, casual, fast. "Mi papa nunca entendió nada," she said. My dad never understood anything. They all laughed. I just sipped my coffee, kept my face still. She kept going, telling stories about me. Most of them weren't true. Some were just for laughs. He's always confused. Old-fashioned. He doesn't know how to use his own phone. That one got a good reaction. But I remembered it all. Every late night, helping with homework, every trip to the science fair, every game I cheered from the stands. She forgot, I guess. Or maybe it was easier to impress her friends with jokes. The check came. She looked at me, all smiles. "Thanks for dinner, Dad. You're so generous." But then, in Spanish, she leaned over. "He won't notice if we order more. He just likes to pay." Everyone laughed again. I just nodded, reached for the bill. But inside, something shifted. Not anger, not sadness, just a sort of calm. I thought, maybe it's time she found out who her father really is. Not the old fool at the end of the table, but the man who listens, the man who remembers. As I signed the receipt, I looked around. All these people, all these words. How many lies do we let slide because it's easier than speaking up? Tonight, I decided that was going to change. The plates were cleared. The candles burned low. My daughter leaned back in her chair, laughing with her friends. She looked proud, like she'd put on a good show. Maybe she thought I didn't notice. I did. I noticed everything. Her stories, her sideways glances, the little jabs in Spanish. Even the way her friends looked at me, smiling, but a little sorry. One of them, Marisol, tried to make small talk with me. "You have a wonderful daughter," she said softly. I nodded, and smiled the way a man does when he's not sure what to say. My daughter raised her glass. "To new memories," she said in English, her eyes shining. Everyone joined in, laughing, clinking glasses. I raised mine too, but my voice was quiet, to truth. She looked at me, just for a second. Her smile flickered. I listened as she told one more story, this time in Spanish, about how her dad once got lost at the airport. "She had to come rescue me," she said. "That's my dad, always a little lost." Her friends roared with laughter. I just smiled, because sometimes you let people laugh. Sometimes you wait for the right moment. As the night wound down, I pulled out my wallet, paid the bill. My daughter thanked me, again in English, and then to her friends in Spanish. "See? He's always good for it. He doesn't even realize how much this all costs." They all laughed again. But inside, I felt something else. Not hurt, not embarrassment, just a quiet strength. All these years, I'd been listening. Tonight, I was done being the quiet one. I looked around that table and thought, how many moments have we lost just because we didn't speak up? My moment was coming. After dessert, the group lingered. Everyone full, happy, careless. My daughter checked her phone, whispering to her friend, "Let's head somewhere else. He'll go home soon." She didn't bother to lower her voice. I watched her gather her purse, still laughing about some story I wasn't meant to hear. Her friends began to stand, stretching, gathering jackets. I rose slowly, steadying myself on the edge of the table. "Thank you for dinner, Dad," she called, not really looking at me. One last time in Spanish, she added, "We'll see if he even remembers any of this." I waited. I wanted every word to settle. Then, I looked at each of her friends in turn, gentle and calm. "In case you didn't know," I said quietly, in perfect, fluent Spanish. I understood every word tonight. The laughter stopped. Chairs froze, half pushed back. A few mouths hung open. I let the silence sit just for a moment. Then I turned to my daughter, meeting her eyes. "All those stories you told tonight about me, about your life, some were true, some were not. But every one of them was yours to share. I hope they brought you the attention you wanted." She blinked, face flushing red, her friend staring. Still in Spanish, I thanked each guest by name. Told Marisol her mother's empanadas sounded wonderful. Congratulated Luis on his new job in Dallas. I could see their surprise, the gears turning, realizing how much I'd heard, how much I'd always understood. My daughter tried to laugh it off, but her voice caught. I finished quietly. "Next time, maybe try honesty. It's easier than pretending." The group stood silent, no one sure what to say. As I picked up my coat, I wondered, how many times do we stay silent to protect others, when maybe it's our voice that's needed most? I stepped out into the night, the city's air cooler now, the street lamps painting everything gold and quiet. For a moment, I just stood on the sidewalk, breathing in, letting the hush settle around me. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry. I was relieved. All those years, I'd let her believe I didn't understand. I'd let myself fade into the background, thinking maybe that was a father's job. Make yourself small so your children can shine. But silence, I realized, doesn't always protect. Sometimes it just erases you. As I walked, I replayed every word from dinner. The way my daughter's confidence had turned to shock, her laughter slipping into silence. I hadn't meant to embarrass her. That was never the point. But a part of me hoped she'd finally see me, as more than a wallet, more than a joke. A couple blocks down, I stopped at a little bakery. A young woman behind the counter smiled. "Long night." I nodded, bought a loaf of bread I didn't need, just to have something in my hands. It felt good, being seen even for a minute. I sat on a bench, watching cars drift by. The world kept spinning, no matter how heavy things felt inside. In that moment, I wondered about all the parents who get smaller with every year. How many of us disappear, piece by piece, until we're just names on a family group chat or a number in a phone. The bakery bag was warm in my hands. I made a quiet promise, to myself this time. No more being invisible. Maybe my daughter would call. Maybe she wouldn't. But I'd said my truth. In both languages. I stood, feeling the weight of the evening lift. Home wasn't far, but tonight it felt different. Like maybe I was heading toward something new, something honest. The night was deep and soft, full of distant city sounds. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. I woke early the next morning. The house was quiet. Sunlight crept through the blinds, warm and gentle. I made coffee, stood at the kitchen window, and watched the street come alive. Somewhere in the city, my daughter was probably still asleep, her world unchanged. But mine felt lighter. I replayed the dinner in my head, the shock on her face, the hush at the table, the words I'd finally spoken. No anger in me, just a strange sort of peace. Halfway through my coffee, my phone buzzed. A message from her. Just one line. "Why didn't you ever tell me you understood?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, wondering how to answer. All those years, I'd wanted her to feel free, to have her own language, her own life. Maybe I thought I was giving her space. Maybe I was just afraid. I typed back. "I always understood more than you thought. I wanted you to know I was there, no matter what language you spoke." 3 dots appeared. Then, nothing. I set the phone down. I spent the day doing little things, watering the plants, reading an old book, sorting through photographs. In every picture, there we were, me with a goofy grin, her with pigtails and missing teeth. She used to lean on me for everything. Now, the house echoed with a different kind of quiet. Not loneliness, not regret, just space. That night, as I washed the dishes, I realized something. Parents and children, they don't always speak the same language. But sometimes, love means learning to listen, even when it hurts. I dried my hands, looked at my reflection in the kitchen window. Older, sure, but not invisible. Maybe my daughter would reach out. Maybe she wouldn't. But I'd found my voice again, and I wasn't going to lose it. A week drifted by. No calls. No texts. At first, I kept checking my phone every hour or so. Old habits die hard. But after a while, I stopped. I let myself move through the days. Coffee, walks in the park, a trip to the library, even lunch with an old friend I hadn't seen in years. The world didn't end just because my daughter was silent. It just changed. One afternoon, I heard a soft knock at the door. I opened it, and there she was. No friends. No audience. Just her alone. She looked uncertain, younger somehow. In her hands, she held the little Spanish book I'd used to help her study years ago. The edges were worn, the pages soft. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, staring at me, as if trying to find the right words. Finally, she spoke. "Dad, I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. I let her in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd once shared homework, cookies, secrets. She fiddled with the book, eyes on her hands. "I never thought you'd understand. I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to feel grown up." I nodded, listening. "I know I hurt you," she said, "but I want to do better. Can we start over?" I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. She squeezed back. For the first time in a long time, I saw my daughter, not the woman trying to impress her friends, but the girl who used to ask me for bedtime stories. We sat in that quiet, the city buzzing outside, both of us holding on to something real. It struck me. Sometimes you have to let go of who you were, so you can meet your child as the person they are now. As she wiped her eyes, I smiled. Maybe we wouldn't ever speak exactly the same language. But we were learning again, together. We sat at that old table until dusk painted the kitchen in soft gold. She talked, and this time, she didn't hide behind stories or another language. She told me about her fears, her need to belong, the pressure to be someone she wasn't. She apologized, really apologized, not just for the dinner, but for every time she'd used her words as a wall between us. I listened. No interruptions. Sometimes, all a father can do is listen. She asked softly, "Why did you never say anything? Why let me think you didn't understand?" I smiled, looking out the window. Maybe I was afraid I'd embarrass you. Maybe I wanted to give you your space to grow. Or maybe I was just tired of being the one who always explained himself. But mostly, I was waiting for you to want to know me, not just need me. She nodded, eyes damp. "I do. I want to know you. I want you to know me, too. For real." We made tea. Talked about little things, favorite books, old jokes, the way the world felt when she was young. The words came easier now. No more translations, no more pretending. Before she left, she hugged me, tight, like she used to when storms rattled the house. She whispered, "Gracias, Papa," for everything, for listening, for loving me, even when I wasn't easy to love. I hugged her back, and for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. She stepped out into the night, and I stood at the door, watching her go, proud of the woman she was becoming. Sometimes, poetic justice doesn't look like revenge. It looks like understanding, like honesty found after years of silence. That night, as the city lights blinked on, I realized I hadn't lost my daughter. I just finally learned how to meet her where she was. And I knew, deep down, we would never need a translation again.